you started your company Brand Design about 10 years ago.
Mhm.
This literally is about creating brands for organizations. And I think you also
Mhm.
do personal brands as well. I know that I've reached out to you and
Yeah.
we started talking about, hey, I want to kind of build this personal type of brand. Some companies would say, why do I need a brand?
Mhm.
Especially in the real estate industry, we just buy and sell houses. And sometimes we try to be the Joe Smith next door. We don't really want to be a big company brand. And some people say,
Sure.
why do I need a brand? So talk to us about kind of what your company does. What do you guys do? You also go through the story brand model.
Mhm.
So take us into how do you create
Yeah.
a brand for a company?
Yeah. So I always start people with the concept, and the starting point is always that a brand is just simply a promise. That's all it is. It's just simply I'm gonna make a promise to you, and then customer service and product quality and all of those other things are me keeping my word that I've kept the promise. And so I always take a step back, because as soon as you say brand, everybody always goes, well, that's my logo, and that's what, we're gonna make up this little logo and we're gonna put it on a piece of paper, and now we're branded. And I look at it wider than that. I think about the choices and the decisions that I make. Again, back to that purpose word of choices and decisions that I make on a daily basis that are driven by the quality of how somebody presented their brand and the way to which they made the promise to me. The analogy I always give people, and it's such a telling one, is if you looked right now in the back of your shirt, there's a tag, and you bought that shirt because of that tag. And people will argue, no, 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 I'm not, I don't fall into consumer brands. I'm not that kind of person. And whether you're into fashion or you're not, no, no, that's not me. And the answer is yes, you are, because you could have bought a cheaper shirt.
Mm.
You didn't buy it because of the price. You could have gone to the Goodwill. You could have bought a cheaper shirt. You didn't. You bought it because you preferred that brand. The technology we're using right now, there's a litany of preferences that were made and choices made because of branding that was done to me, the promise that was given to me. And I always look at it and think, okay, if your larger corporations are going to do that, your larger corporations even today are more interested in becoming more personal brand than they ever were. Companies like Amazon, companies like Apple, companies like Tesla, who the CEOs are because they've put a face to the brand. When we were growing up, we were about the same age. When we were growing up, you didn't know who the CEO of a company was. You had no clue. Because they feel like they need to add flesh and blood to the promise that they're making. And I always try to help a company they always say, where should I start with this process? And the place to start simply is, what is your promise? What are you going to do for this person to make their life better? To kind of tie it into what we talked about with story branding. In story branding, we learned two things. We learned that every single person has two desires in their life. And those two things are to survive and to thrive, and to conserve calories. And that's it. To survive and thrive, and to conserve calories. And every single person is desiring to survive and thrive. And whether you think about it and are intentional about building your brand or not, the consumer is looking at you as a company and saying, how are you going to help me to survive and thrive? And how are you going to make it simple for me? What's the simplest way for me to do this, to where mentally, physically, and all of those different areas, I'm going to conserve the energy that I have for today? And so branding is those two things, is coming alongside and saying, hey, here's how I can help you to better your life. And secondly, here's how I'm going to make it as simple as possible for you to do that. Because with so much noise in this world, we used to give the statistic that, you have to say it 7 times for somebody to hear it once. New studies are saying that number is more like 16 now. Like the idea that somebody has to hear something so many times, and that brand has to be so redundant to get somebody to even pay attention to us, because people are more interested than ever than surviving and thriving and conserving calories. And so to not give it a clear, concise, consistent promise that I could just hand you and say, here's my colors, here's my type, here's my logo, here's the verbiage that we use, here's the consistency that goes along with it, in a nice, neat package that you can carry with you, and you don't have to think too hard about it. You don't have to think too long about it, but know that it's going to make your life better. That's branding. And when we can create that kind of a connection with somebody, then the possibilities are endless. I mean, there are brands that I have. I'll go to war for them because they've gotten me so much into this. I literally got in an argument yesterday over Popeye's chicken sandwiches versus Chick-fil-A, because I am an advocate for Chick-fil-A. I mean, you will never convince me that there's a better chicken sandwich. And is that really true? I don't know, but the brand and the promise that they've made to me has so hooked me in.
That
I
is
mean,
true.
I will not use a PC. I won't do it. Is there anything wrong with a PC? If I would be honest in my heart of hearts, probably not. But I'm so connected to a brand.
Yeah.
And rather than just simply looking at that, most small business look at that and say, yeah, that's the corporations. They have billions of dollars. They can do that. In reality, you have small businesses and you have people in your life that have connected with you on a brand level, and it works just the same. And it has nothing to do with the money that was spent. It's just a clear and concise promise. It's a clear and concise way that they presented themselves, and they made it simple for you to interact with them. So
Yeah, I love that. My wife, she's the exact same way. She would die for the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich.
that's right. Yeah, hey,
But
don't mess with it.
it is true. Now, it's funny is because you go back to Chick-fil-A, and my wife even will say that, well, it's Chick-fil-A. It's got to be healthier than the other fast
That's
food
right.
restaurants. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that's really true. But, but they do make that promise, it's going to be pretty fast. They're going to be nice to you. And there's some
Yep.
of the promises that they make. So that's very, very interesting. And so really just talking about brands, it's the promise. And
Mhm.
when you're talking to companies, what's some of the big mistakes that companies make when it comes to branding?
And this is one you'll hear in pretty much any environment right now, and it's the number one issue in most marketing and branding in general is lack of authenticity. If it's not real and if it's not authentic, that people see through that so quickly that your head will spin. I mean, if you don't come across as someone who is authentic and real, the old game of trying to present yourself in a way that is not true to who you are, it not only doesn't work anymore, it is such a detriment that it's not worth even trying.
Hmm.
And so that to me is one, two, and three of branding is there has to be a level of authenticity to it.
That should be a
Number
breath
two,
of fresh air, though, for people because
absolutely,
it's like, wow, all
absolutely,
I have to do is be myself and just be
yeah.
who I am. I don't have to fake anything. I like that.
Yeah, and there's a level of comfort to that, and I think that's where, again, generationally, we're getting better about it. To be honest, I mean, the way our parents grew up was more of, here's Walter Cronkite and he reads the news and it's very, concise and specific, and now it's much more folks sharing, an open market of ideas and their perspectives and different things like that, and there's value there because there's authenticity that's desired. The second part of that to me is and this one's a little more nuanced and they're going to seem like they conflict with each other, but they don't, is considering how somebody is going to consume the brand, is thinking I'm going to be authentic and I'm going to be myself, but also thinking about how is somebody else going to consume what I'm about to do. And we hardly ever think about the consumer on it. I cannot tell you how many meetings and brand consultations I've had with people where it's arguments over, well, purple's my favorite color, and so I want it to be purple. And I don't. It's not for you. I don't care if purple's your favorite color. It's for them. And thinking about how they're going to consume it. Again, it comes back to that purposeful heart that you have to have that says, I'm interested in helping you. If you're trying to be a selfish brand in 2020, it just doesn't work. People do not care about, again, to tie in the story brand stuff, they don't care about making you the hero.
No.
They don't care about making you successful. They care about how you can help them and that you do care about them.
Exactly. I think there was a book that I was reading. I think it's Epic Content Marketing, and they said, people don't care about your product. They don't care about you. They only care about themselves.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
So,
and the more your brand can convince them that we care about you too, the better off you're always going to be.
yeah.
And again, that can be presented in a million different ways. Sometimes that's, we've created this amazing brand and this amazing tribe, and we want you to come along and be a part of it. Sometimes that's a few years ago, Johnson & Johnson had a whole run of ad campaigns that were more, emotionally tied to the parents and tied to people specifically and being there in the greatest moments of their life and all of those things. It can present itself that way. It can present itself as sports teams and different things saying, hey, come join this, this team that we've got. I mean, there's 1,000 different ways to go about it.
Exactly. In this day and age, do you think that everybody is giving off a brand, whether they want to or not, whether they think about it or not? They're all giving off some certain level of a brand.
Yeah. The word that's interchangeable, and it's interchangeable from previous times and now, is reputation, right? That's what people always say is your brand is basically all it is just reputation. It's just a matter of whether you're going to curate your reputation or whether you're simply just going to let it sit. The way I look at it is basically all a brand is a loudspeaker. Mm-hmm. Is whether or not you're going to pick up the loudspeaker and set it up to next to your life and allow it to broadcast. You can just sit there and talk and people will hear it, and that's going to be the effect that takes place. If I just sit here and talk to you and we didn't have the cameras rolling now and there was no recording taking place and we were just having a conversation, we would be branding. There would be an effect on my reputation, and there'd be an effect on your reputation, and we would leave that with a picture of what we had before versus what we have now. And when we take it from reputation and now we start calling it branding, whether it be personal or business, is basically just us saying, I'm going to pick up the loudspeaker and I'm going to set it up against what I've got going on and widen the broadcast and put it out there in a farther scope. And so I agree. And people use that interchangeable. To me, branding is when we finally pick it up and say, okay, we're going to put it on the internet. We're going to put it out there to be consumed. We're interested in people hearing this, not just saying it for our own merits.
Yes. Amen. And there was another quote, was it by maybe Warren Buffett, that he talks about you can spend years building your reputation or building your brand, and it takes 5 minutes to ruin it. So like, you have to be
words
really...
have never been spoken.
Thank you so much for checking out the Brett Snodgrass channel. If you like this video, please slam on that like button, and if you really like it, then subscribe to our channel here. And remember to leave us a comment below, and I'm going to try my hardest to reply to all the comments. Thank you guys so much. This is why I do what I do. Every single week I come out with content that focuses on success, freedom, and living out your purpose. Thank you guys so much. See you next time.